Hi, I'm Arlene, host of the television talk show Ask Arlene, which airs on Thursdays at 6:30. And as a business consultant and life coach, I help you to move forward in your business, project, or endeavor. So if you always wanted to write a book, but you just haven't seemed to get started, or you always wanted to 10x that business that you already have, expand it to the next level, you know exactly what you need to do, but you just haven't done it? Well, I've already purchased all the courses, read all the books, the Tony Robbins, all sorts. I have several degrees, including a master's degree and credits toward a doctorate. I've sat with and met celebrities and done the networking. And what I realized is what I really needed was a mastermind group of people working toward my project, my business, or my endeavor. So what I've done is met with coaches and met with experts and put them together to work on your project. So join us today for our mastermind networking group. I'll see you there. Click the link below and join us.
Hello and welcome to the Ask Arlene show. I'm so excited to join you today because we have a special guest. Her name is Darla Willams, and we're going to be talking a little bit about her journey. I'm so excited because I met her in an international business group, and so we're so excited that she was able to spend some time with us today. She is a visionary specialist, formerly a life coach. She's the mother, and she is an entrepreneur. And most of all, she's a friend. She's a very nice friend. And so I welcome her on the show, introduce her to some, and reintroduce her to others. Miss Darla Willams. Welcome, Darla.
Hello. Thank you for having me on today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to see you. How is it down there in Texas? Is it hot?
It is warm. It is definitely hotter than usual right now.
Okay, great. My home is New York, but I'm in California, and it is hot. It is very hot out here.
In a good shaded spot, we're good, though.
So I met you in this international business group. I am so excited that I had an opportunity to bring you on air and introduce you to my community. Tell us, what is the difference between a life coach and a visionary specialist? Because I understand that that's one of the things that you've done. You've transitioned. But then also you're going to tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to this industry of coaching and specialist type work. For those of you that don't know, I am a life coach. I am Arlene. I've been a life coach now for several years. And how I came to this was because several years ago, I was flying high. I was working in politics and in government. And I was recruited out of 300 people to go clear across the country to head up an organization. And so I was the director of this particular group. It's a chamber of commerce. And shortly thereafter, I was in the process of being introduced to a new board of directors. As you guys know, sometimes the board of directors changes every few years. And this new board of directors that came in, they wanted their own director. They didn't any longer want to work with me as the director. And so they fired me. But guys, they didn't just fire me. They put my picture on the cover of the newspaper. And across my face, it said fired. And I was stuck. I was really stuck. And then shortly thereafter, my mom passed away of an incurable disease. She was somebody who could go around the track 6 laps and was very active, had never been in the hospital the entire time I knew her. And then all of a sudden, she acquired this incurable disease and she was down for the count. And everything that is involved with watching a person die, Darla, I had to do it. I watched her go down. And it was rough. And so then I was even more stuck. And I was in a dark place. And I know I needed something to help me to get out. But at that point, I did not know what that something was. And I found a lady who was having a conference, and it was clear across the country. I was in New York, and I was going to have to fly to California, La Jolla, California, to go to this conference. And I said to the lady, well, I can't go because, I had my daughter, and, I'd have to tell people, and I'd have to bring somebody with me. And she said to me, she asked me one question. She said, why? I said, why not? This is going to change your life. This is going to help you to move forward. Why can't you come? I was like, ooh, I didn't have an answer for her. I really didn't have an answer for why I needed company or all the things that we usually tell ourselves for why we can't do things. And so I went. I packed up my things. I took my daughter with me. I took her out of school because she was like, I don't feel comfortable staying, Mommy. So I spent an extra $1,000 for her to get there. And we went. And this event, guys, was a life coaching event, and it was a life-changing event. This is what brought me into coaching. On the very first day that I was at this event, Darla, I put my jacket on a woman's chair in front of me at the conference. And she turned around, and I fully expected her to complain. Like, why did you put your jacket on my chair? Or please take it off. Or because I had been around these political people, and you see how politics operates. Like, there are a lot of nasty people involved. And I was so caught up in my situation and the things that had happened that when she turned and she smiled at me and she adjusted the jacket on her chair, that little gesture of kindness, it made me start to cry. And I just broke. And all of the worry and the stress, and the sadness from the death of my mom, and all of that stuff, that was the beginning of my healing. Okay, that was the beginning. And during that season, I came up with 10 secrets, 10 things that I believe truly helped me. In addition to all the hugging and the kissing and the loving and the, being around amazing people who were crushing it as life coaches, not just the hundreds, but the thousands, the hundreds of thousands. These people allowed me to discover these 10 secrets. And the first secret, of course, is clarity. The second secret in the journey was visualization, like seeing the end from the beginning. The third secret was momentum. And I lean in because that one is the hardest sometimes, because it's actually just moving and stepping into that thing, even though you're not clear with all the details. Like, you have clarity in terms of what you want to do, but you don't know the how necessarily, but you begin taking those baby steps and moving into it. And then the fourth step is proximity, which is what we're doing right now, getting around people who truly want to see you win and who are truly in line with what your drive is and your visions are and your goals are. And then there are 6 other topics within the book, and I outline them clearly, delineating what you need to do in each of these 10 secrets. And if you follow them, you will win. You will get unstuck. And so today I'm so excited to hear Darla's journey as far as how she came into this concept of coaching and this space of truly winning and crushing it at the game of life, going where you want to go, doing what you want to do, and being who you want to be. So Darla, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to this space. Oh, and by the way, you can get the other secrets in the book. And over the book, I'm not sure what side you're on, but you can get that there. Go ahead, Darla. Share with us how you came to this space.
Well, I'm going to go back to I'm going to start with the fact that you mentioned I'm a mother.
Yes.
In the very early years of my son's development, we found out that my son has a lot of mental health issues. And I had to be on a journey in his health care. And because he refused any interaction with the doctors, they had to train me how to help him because of his conditions. And each year we developed a new condition and another condition and another condition, and I had to be the researcher of it all. I had to figure out what they meant by every different type of condition that they were labeling, which was a label. And we all get labels placed on us. And that was something I really struggled with. I didn't feel that it was fair that just because we were in the mental health situation, that they needed the label that limited them to who they could really, truly, potentially be. And I wanted to break that. I wanted to break that limitation. I thought that that was unfair and unjust. So emotionally, I was very invested in the very early years of my son's life and his development. At the age of 4, we had to have an intervention because he became very emotionally unstable and violent in his nature. And because of that, we were on a series of different things in and out of mental health facilities and other things along the way, and still happen to do that still to this day. Sometimes he balances out, and then he stops his meds and goes back and has to be back on his meds. So we have different episodes that happen, but along the journey, I was being taught and trained by every mental health facility that I was entering into along the way. So I've spent over 24 years being taught how to help those who are dealing with these different conditions. And I'm talking about an array of all of them. Every letter that you could possibly come up with, my son has had as a label over his name until he's gotten to the place where he is today. But in 2017, on a positive note, I took my world on a different journey. After he had grown, he was already out of the house. I had always been the way, one of the things I do with the kids in my family is I'm a storyteller. I like to create stories and tell them the stories myself instead of reading the books from the storybooks. But ultimately, what ended up happening is I had a nephew who heard the story and said, Aunt Darla, you're an artist. Why haven't you drawn us any pictures for these stories? I was like, So I took it upon myself for the first time in my life to invest in me. And I began a journey trying to figure out how to publish a book for my nephew so that he could have it in a book instead of just the story from me. And in turn, I published it in hopes that the rest of the world would enjoy it as much as my family did. I had no idea that was going to turn my world into upside down and inside out. And I was finally going to be living the life that I was supposed to be embarking on. Sometimes we think we're supposed to be looking outside of ourselves for everything, when in actuality, we need to look inside, which brought me to a place where I began my own personal growth and development for working through the pain experiences that myself and my son had endured when he was very young. We were in an abusive relationship. Yeah, I was in an abusive relationship and had to overcome domestic violence. And sorry about the background noise.
We don't hear it.
I have a train. I did not know that was scheduled to come through.
We don't hear it. We just hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, so I got distracted. I apologize.
One of the things that you said that was of interest, which also happened to me, you said because of the challenges with your son and with this journey that you had to go through, I can't imagine. First of all, I applaud you as a parent to have gone through that and to be able to share with other people your journey and be able to help them along the journey. I applaud you. And I can't even imagine what it's like to have a child who is sick. My heart goes out to you. And as a mom, I just know that you stress over your kids. Even when they're well, you're constantly stressing over your kids because you want everything to be perfect. So to know that you have to have all these doctors, and I mean, that's a whole nother issue. But one of the things that you said that I keyed in on was the fact that you said it caused you to go inside as opposed to merely looking at the outside, and you had to dig deep in order to really move forward. And so that's really what I want to talk about, that inner process and what it is that you did in that process to dig deep, find yourself, and find your bliss and your joy despite the domestic violence, despite the challenges that you were having with your son. So we're going to be right back, and she's going to share with us some of what she did, the tools and tips and techniques that she used in order to move forward despite the challenges. you should join our Speakers Bureau training and our How to Become a World-Class Speaker. 1, revenue generation. People who know how to communicate well earn more dollars and cents. And 2, if you have a day job, you're not a speaker, teacher, author, trainer, you're going to gain promotion on your job if you're better able to communicate with confidence in those board meetings. Now, you say, why should I join your group, Arlene? There are so many programs out there. Well, I'm guaranteeing you an interview on television or radio if you complete our 10 sessions of our Speakers Bureau training. So I have a plethora of friends that do the same types of things that I do, and so we're guaranteeing you an interview on either television or radio. And you say, well, why else, Arlene? Why else should I join? Well, if you join our Speakers Bureau, after having taken the 10-session training, I am going to help you, along with our team, to launch that speaking career that you always envisioned so that you can use your message to change the world. So there's so many programs out there and they tell you how to be a speaker, but I'm going to actually help you to get booked on paid speaking engagements on television and on radio if you complete all 10 sessions and you join our Speakers Bureau. I hope to see you there and see you using your dream, your vision, and your talent to change the world. Bye-bye. See you there. So you're using your dream, your vision, and your talent to change the world, which is what you're doing today with us here, Darla. So tell us, what are some things that you did to look inside yourself in order to be able to move forward after dealing with the challenges with your son, with domestic violence, with, you know, just life in general?
Well, being on the pursuit.
Step 1? Yeah.
Being on the pursuit in step 1 was literally realizing how much over the years, the 24 years invested, I had been receiving so much tools and techniques within myself so that I could work through the pain through the therapy sessions and all the different counsel. And, you know, I had been through, you know, just family counsel to domestic violence recovery to so many, I mean, personal groups.
You had to point to one thing that truly helped you when you were going through the domestic violence counseling. What was one thing that you heard that you're like, ooh, this is a nugget. I'm going to take this and use this for life?
It wasn't what I heard. It was what I developed within myself. You have to come to a place within yourself that I knew that I had to make decisions. Due to not understanding how to have a boundary for so long in my life, I had to learn how to do that, and learning to understand that I was the only one responsible for making the decisions to keep myself safe. I had to.
Can I ask you a question about? I also went through a similar. Okay, I went through what was called verbal. It was verbal insults. So I didn't know that was domestic violence until I was going through my divorce, and the authorities said, yeah, that's domestic violence. It doesn't have to be punching and shoving. And sometimes the punching and shoving, you know, people can see that. And so you get counsel from that, and people will come and embrace you. When it's mental, nobody sees it. And so they don't necessarily come alongside you and share supportive information, because unless you tell them, nobody knows. But one of the things you just said, which is that it wasn't what somebody told you, it wasn't a step, but the real step was you realizing that you had to make a change, that you had to see things differently. And in the book that I wrote, the step 1 is clarity. And I think that in terms of what you're saying, you had to get clear about what you wanted to do. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I had to learn to make decisions. And that's where I was. I had to learn to make decisions. And those decisions are not always easy. Sometimes they're absolutely scary because you're entering what's the unknown. And I can honestly say that when you're going through those situations and when it is as extreme as mine was back in those days, what I can honestly state is learning how to bridge that space. It was the what if? What if this happens again? What if? How do you, when you begin to develop within the inner mind, the subconscious side of it, what I realized was subconsciously, I was building the structure that I needed so that if a circumstance and a situation arose again, I would exactly know how to navigate myself regardless. And I had always had a resource so that I knew how to escape.
So, what made you
And
say at that juncture? You said that you decided that if it happened next time, you were going to do something about it. But what was that switch that made you say, well, this time I'm definitely going to do something about it, as opposed to the times before when it happened and you didn't say that to yourself? Like, what was that switch that made you say, okay, now I'm clear and I'm going to
what
do this?
came, what came later after making those initial decisions was I began developing a course called The Art of Learning Self-Love. It's a 90-day course that I actually teach now. And what I do with that is I take you through affirmations that empower yourself. I have 90 of them, including a daily assignment that helps people to begin unlocking the limiting belief systems within themselves, as well as discovering the self so that you can actually know what it is and build what it is that you
Can you
truly
tell us
want.
some things that you started to do to unlock those limiting beliefs that helped you to change how you were behaving?
To begin unlocking, I had to understand that it began no longer looking outside of myself for other people to believe in me, and that can't really never did anything. But that once I made a decision and began taking the steps that were necessary, I could begin shifting from that unlimited belief system and realize that what I thought about, I could bring about.
So tell us what
So
some of those steps were. Share those with us.
the steps to those is, I mean, most of that would come from, the coaching, because of the fact that we all
One
need
on
coaches
one,
to
right?
walk the one-on-ones, because it's easier, because each person's individual unlock, their unlocking tool is truly deposited into them. I cannot say that what mine was is going to work for another person. However, I can share mine and hopefully it will help for quite a few. For myself personally, it was finding myself. It was self-discovery. So number one, finding out what it is that I truly wanted and who I really needed to be. But I need it, not the voices of everyone else around me, not the swaying of everyone else's opinions, but truly understanding what it was that I needed and being able to honor myself. So that was the next step, learning to honor my own decisions, regardless of how it began to affect other people, realizing that I had just as equal amount of opportunity as everyone else.
Some people say that they come to the realization that they know they need to move, but because they have kids, they don't feel like they should move because they're staying for the kids. How do you feel about that? Was that something that impacted you?
Well, I think that when mine came through, my son was already grown, but I was helping my family with, their children. So my nieces and nephews. So I can honestly say that it is difficult to maneuver during that time. But when you really make a decision to do something, you will find a way. Everything, the path itself doesn't always illuminate itself to you and give you a perfect plan to it. But if you can make a decision, create the idea, and make the goal ending, and are willing to fall in love with your process, every step will find you right where you need to be met at.
How
Everything
would you
will
know?
actually begin to line up.
Okay, in the last few minutes that we have, let's say somebody's listening and they're going through this challenge. They're having a situation, this domestic violence, but they don't know that they're in a domestic violence situation. And they don't know if it's something that's severe enough for them to leave or if they should stay or, everybody goes through challenges, rough times in their relationships. Give us something that you would say to them so that they would know to move. And if they're going to move, where do they go? What's the first step? What do they have to do?
Okay. So say that you are experiencing a situation every day with an individual in your relations, and you are finding that every time you try to voice your feelings or voice something that is really offending you, you should have someone who wants to hear that you are experiencing something, that you're having a feeling. If those feelings are being invalidated, or that you're being told that, that because you're having an expression, that it now needs to be somebody else's problems while they tell you their problems, those two things in itself are a form of violence and domestic violence, because you need a partner who has just as much opening to you and your needs as you do to theirs.
So let's say that's the situation and you find that the person is not open to hearing your emotions and your feelings. What do you do? What's the next step? Where do you go? Who do you talk to?
Sometimes, first off, I can say that if you are in a committed relationship, and whether or not you're married or have been invested for a long time, or you really want to see whether or not this works out, you can always seek out and seek medical care, a life coach, a therapist. There are domestic resources nationally around the world. There's a hotline that people can call if they feel that they are in a distressful area. And if you're in extreme situations where you've actually been violated in a form of physical abuse, you can immediately call 911. You will get dispatched out, as well as a plan of action to help you to begin understanding how to take those steps. And there is plenty of support systems around the world. There are free systems and groups around the world that you can meet with that can help you. But what I would say first and foremost, always know that if there was ever an emergency, not that we want to create one, but knowing that if there is ever one, you need to know that you have a safe place that nobody else knows that you would go to. So
all right. Thank you so much for your time today, for sharing with us. This person that you are seeing before you is Darla Willams. We're sharing with you her email address so that you can contact her and be able to get information from her. But you can always go to Ask Arlene Show, and we'll have her information listed there. Thank you, the listeners, for spending time with us today. Thank you to Ian and Katrina for helping us and being a part of the team to put the show together today. Thank you so much. And go to AskArleneShow.com. Bye-bye.
This place that I call I want to explain it to her.
Name some things I'll be without you, good. Stop the growth, I bet you think you could. Said you gon' leave me, man, I wish you would. Yeah, I'm different, so I'm misunderstood. So I'ma always be good. Said I'ma always be good.